This has been an incredible event. As a consumer, all the different representations from brands that we have in the room today is incredible. I have a personal relationship with almost everybody who's presented. So just a round of applause for all of you and Brand Innovators. This has been a great morning so far, and hope we can add to it. So I am fortunate to have the opportunity to talk with Dawn about how Go-To Foods is thinking about reaching the next gen consumer, and I like to keep things interactive. So just like a raise a hand, do we have any Gen Zs in the room? Okay, so you guys come. I caught one lie, but keep us honest if we're telling any lies. You guys are the authentic generation, so that's going to be a theme that we're going to be talking about. But let's start with just some easy questions. Dawn, tell us a little bit about your role, how you got to Go-To, and what made you want to take the jump to the brand.
Okay. So I'll start by saying I built my career and being a data-driven marketer. And I started on the agency side, general advertising, as well as direct marketing, and then went into consulting. I did brand consulting. I also did media planning and consulting, and then also set up companies for sale, so did a lot of M&A work. So whether a company was going to want to evaluate whether or not that is a company that they wanted to take into their portfolio, or a company that wanted to set themselves up for sale, how to best position yourself in order to be grabbed up by a key buyer. So at one point in 2013, I decided to move client side, move away from agency. And the reason was I was ready at that point in my career to not just be the influencer of the decision, but actually be the owner of the strategy and the decisions. And so moved client side, was very, very fortunate to spend about 8 years of my career at the Home Depot. I oversaw merchandise marketing for all 15 departments, CRM strategy and implementation, as well as marketing operations, and came to Go-To Foods this past spring. And it was primarily for two key reasons. One, I got to work on 7 iconic food brands. And that was really interesting because they're all at different points in their evolution and their life cycle, which is also, I love challenges, I love solving problems, so that was great. And secondly, I'm a foodie. So I don't know if you all know this, but at Go-To Foods, we have 7 test kitchens on our first floor, and you walk by any given day and you might be trying something different every single day, and thank you. I like that very, very much. I even have chefs that hand me things to take home to my children. I'm also grateful for that. So again, that is how I got to Go-To Foods, and currently I'm the Vice President of Integrated Marketing and Innovation.
Awesome. I expect an invite to the Go-To Food offices as a follow-up to this, because I want to get in that test kitchen. Auntie Annie's, I can smell it from here. In terms of the day-to-day as the VP of Integrated Marketing and Innovation, what types of jobs are you working on? What is your to-do list looking like right now?
I have a 5-page to-do list, so if that helps anybody. But what I will say is one of the key priorities is something that I kind of heard thematically in some of the other talks, but it's really about making sure that we as a platform company are supporting our company-owned stores as well as our franchisees with building very, very strong, durable, long-lasting brands that actually appeal multi-generationally. So in part, it's about really making sure that we ask ourselves the tough questions about who are we? And I don't mean that superficially, but who are we really as each of these brands? And 7 brands, very, very, very different answers, right? And because you have to say, why am I delivering this? Anybody can serve you a sandwich, okay? Maybe not a good one, not as good as some of ours, but as somebody can serve you a taco. But it's really about how are you making long-lasting connections with customers in an authentic way. And so you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this, or how am I doing this better or differently than anybody else? Because you're not going to differentiate yourself on whom you're serving the sandwich to, or on the product that you're serving, really. Your true differentiation is going to come in a very different way.
I imagine that's a bit of a unique challenge for your position, because you have to balance these legacy brands that I'm sure that the franchisees really love and cherish, because that's part of why they signed up to get a part of the whole program. Is they have these iconic brands, but then you have to steward in the next generation of consumers. So I could imagine seeing a little bit of rub there between some of the franchisees, like, we don't do this, we haven't done this in the past. How do you identify like what is going to move the needle for your franchisees and keep your brand that authentic Auntie Annie's or McAllister's or Schlotsky's or Moe's? Can you talk a little bit about like the balance there of like maintaining the brand identity and then moving into new initiatives to attract that younger generation?
Sure. I'll start by saying, the most important thing is to know thyself. And when I mean that is really know who you are at your core. And you're right, a lot of our franchisees have purchased these franchisees because they themselves have a connection in some way, shape, or form to these brands, right? So we don't want to lose that. It's about how do you maintain cultural relevancy over time. So for example, McAllister's, I don't know if you all know this, but their passion, what they set out to do every day is to nourish connections. A Moe's, every day they're setting out to feed that rebel spirit. And I'll just do a little side, but when Scott and I were talking, he was like, when I said that to him, he said, "Oh, that's interesting." And I said, "Well, Moe's is actually musicians, outlaws, and entertainers." I don't know how many of you knew that, but so that is totally part of the core DNA of that brand. And Auntie Anne's is about twisting up your day. I mean, at the end of it, Auntie Anne's wants to be that disruptor to your day, and they want to like bring a little bit of, nuance and getting you out of the rut. Okay, it starts with the smell, but really what Auntie Anne's wants to stand for you in the day is a little bit of fun. Break up the monotony, right? And so it's about taking those iconic brands and then how do I now show up for this generation? So I'll give you an example of McAllister's, because it's about not just saying these things, but it's about living them. It's about actually manifesting them, in your experience. And I think we heard some of the other panelists talk about that.
Yeah, I when we were talking yesterday, we were doing a little brief before this, lasting connections with McAllister's, and in my head as a child, McAllister's lasting connection to me was getting done with Little League Baseball, and with my team we'd go and get club sandwiches, and still to this day the honey mustard there is the #1 condiment in the market. So I see some people smiling, they know what's up. So I think we want to talk about a few examples of like how you are making these authentic connections with the next generation at McAllister's. Do you want to talk about like the book club and the tea?
Sure. Let's start by saying, again, it's like all those little rituals actually matter, right? So if you go into a McAllister's, we're about nourishing connections, you're probably going to have a team member verbally engage you. You're probably also, especially if you're a loyalty member, also walk away with a little something extra, whether that be a cookie, whether that be a handwritten note. It's something about the nourishing of connections. And then thinking about this next generation, thinking about the, content creators and the impact of just like societal and cultural relevancy. We've partnered with several different, or I don't know if like Gen X or, relevant influencers, one of which is Hannah Brown. I don't know if any of you know who she is. Okay. Well, for those that don't know, you either know her as a New York best-selling author, a New York Times best-selling author, or you know her because she was on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. I don't know which you guys know her for. I'm guessing The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Okay. Okay. So, partnered with her on a book club. What we found, the thing that actually drew us in this direction is we had an insight, and what we like to call our future advocates, because everybody is an opportunity to come on into the family, right? So our future advocates, what we found is that 80% of them enjoy reading, and 50% of them actually read on a weekly basis. And so what we did is we created a virtual book club, if you will. She also is super passionate. Obviously, she believes that reading and books and literature can bring people together. So we hosted a book club. We had a hashtag, Book Talk, and let people go on and talk about their favorite genres, talk about their favorite authors, provide points of view, and they even did, silent reviews and so on. She was very active in the channel and actually gave the opportunity for people to say, hey, what's the A to Z, and if you wanted to do your own book, right? And so we really saw great traction with that. It was culturally relevant. It totally built the connections. So I'll say that was one of the collabs that really, really worked for us.
It's so interesting because we've been hearing a lot about the Gen Zs, and I'm looking at the Gen Zs that raised their hand earlier, and I'm trying to put some respect on your name. You hear everybody talking about like the short attention span, the short content, and then here we're developing a program about reading. So how did you get to the insight that, it's not just this, they live digitally native lives, and you found that a hardback or a paperback book is the way to talk to them?
Yeah, for us, thank our customer insights team, consumer insights team, I'll start with that. And that was some of the foundation. But also, I think short form is the way in. You have to be relevant with this generation because you have a split second to grab their attention. But if they're interested, they will invest in long form and they will make investments in your brand and connecting with you. But they just need it done in an authentic and real way. The moment that they see that you are disingenuine, they will disengage very, very quickly.
Switching gears to another one of your portfolios, can you talk about like the I think you used the term, I don't know if the pun was intended or not, but like the snackable content and the campaign with Moe's?
Yes, thank you, because I actually just kind of brought that up. We're in the food business, so I gotta have some fun over here. So snackable content. So we obviously have 6 seconds and 15 seconds like everybody does nowadays. But what we found with Moe's is actually moving this kind of sliced content into different areas. So 2 examples would be podcasts, right? We need to capture new audiences. We are in podcasts. We are in Joe Rogan. We are in Call Her Daddy. I don't know if any of you know those or listen to them, but the fact of the matter is not only did we select them because we were getting to the right audience, but they are very much attached to the brand essence of feeding the rebel spirit. So did a couple of those incredible collabs. What we also found out, interestingly enough, is that 30% of people who are on podcasts, when they hear a podcast audio message, they are, 30% said they are then conditioned to want to go and actually take a snack or grab some food right then and there, which I thought was really interesting. So that would definitely be one of them. So I'll stick with that.
Yeah, I guess a follow-up question for that is like getting back to authenticity. You talk about Joe Rogan, you talk about Call Her Daddy. You don't necessarily think brand safety next. So how did you decide, or like where was the balance of we want to go more towards the authentic connection with our consumer versus the safe play?
And again, I think that is part of brand management, right? Good brand management, which is, I think I'd be a little bit more willing to take some risks with a brand like a Moe's than with some of the other brands in our portfolio. That their brand essence gives us a little bit more permission, I would say.
That's a great response, and like when you said that, I was like, yeah, it makes total sense. They're rebels. So following up with these very detailed tactical questions, and then we maybe switch gears to some fun. But what were the major learnings from these campaigns that we've talked about, and what would you continue to implement in reaching this next generation based off these past performances?
Well, we are seeing greater engagement rates, and we're also seeing more repeat purchase. So that's good, because I think what it's saying is I'm actually now connecting with you at the brand level, and now I'm going to repay you, if you will, with my dollars and coming back and visiting you again. I would say one of the things about this generation that we take to heart is they're very discerning. I mean, you really can't pull the wool over this generation's eyes or the next generation. They've seen a lot, right? And they know what's real. And so making these connections and having your brand not just to be, again, about the product that you're serving, you absolutely want that to be pristine and satisfying, but also making sure that your behavioral cues, not just in the physical world, but in the digital world, in all ways that you show up, are genuine.
Before we switch gears, actually, let's switch gears to some questions from the audience, if we have any, and then I can have some. Yeah, go ahead.
Great job. My name is Alvin Lloyd, Chief Strategy Officer. Question. So, marketers, we love like Gen Z, millennial, which person I have a problem with it because I think it's just a lot of characterization. But there's so many different incidents and understanding people out in transit. So this idea of culture as a context, which to me is sort of a marketing center, is really what you sit here marketing. Are you guys including that as part of your strategy? A lot of marketers do that today, and my question is, using that as an evergreen versus, which like St. Patrick's or Mexican American or whatever, and that should be marketing and evergreen.
I was just thinking, no, actually I was pausing because I was like, has he been looking in my bag and like looking at all my notes? I'm like, it's interesting. No, that is definitely the direction I would say that Go-To Foods is migrating into. And you're absolutely right. You can't have these just event moments or just what we call LTOs, like limited time offers, and think that that's going to be sustaining for your business. All those things are important. Looking at your menu and having menu rationalization, making sure that you're on trend, not just with your food, with your experience. All those things matter. But to your point, also, it's like I have to create what I'm going to call an umbrella, if you will, an umbrella campaign. I don't even want to call it campaign. I just want an umbrella messaging architecture, where it is everything that I do and I say and wherever I show up, it's consistent, but the reasons to believe may change. So the location, the where I meet you, and the how I speak to you might change, but the context in which I'm delivering that message and the thing that I want you to leave with will not change. Does that make sense?
Question in the back.
Hey, how are you? I know that Gen Z enjoys seeing people actually being social on social media, and a lot of QSR brands are participating in social media content outside of just their page. Have you seen people in your portfolio do the same thing, where they're just being brand users of the platforms?
Yes, actually, I don't know if this is exactly answering your question, but as I mentioned, I haven't been with Go-To Foods very long. So as we were doing 2025 planning, I had to do a little bit of my own recon. Some of that is a little Google search. Some of that is actually listening to user-generated content. And this goes to long form, and maybe it's just me, but there was an influencer, unpaid by the way, okay? 32 minutes of content for Cinnabon. She actually had gone and purchased basically the entire portfolio. As a woman, she was like, I'm in that time where I just need my sugar, right? And she went through and she ate and reviewed every single one of our platforms for herself, like for her own generated content. Maybe she wanted to get recognized, but it was 32 minutes of content, By the way, I learned a lot about the brand that day. I mean, I did. And then I went to the president and I was like, let me tell you what this girl's saying about your center of the role, blah, 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 blah. Okay? But my point is, yes. So you need to be contextually relevant. Yes, social's great. But also, you have to let people have the freedom to create their own content too, and not be overly prescriptive. You just have to listen and be responsive, I would say. Hopefully that answered the question.
Right here.
You talk a lot about
We do have a BI team. We do have a customer insight team. No, it's not huge. I would not say that in any way, shape, or form. And you know what? We're piecing things together. You know, is it perfect? I would say not. I don't know a lot of corporations that do have that, you know, clearly and well defined. But we do have a lot of the right pieces. Actually, I was just sitting with the head of our insights team yesterday going through, we have a lot of good information. We have a lot of great sources. It's really about aggregating it and also prioritizing what do we think is actually going to move the needle. I don't have to have the answer to every single thing, but I do have to have the answer to the important things.
Any other questions? Oh, yeah, here we go.
So, you talked a lot about different generations and getting people excited. I love the book club insight. I thought that was super interesting. Is there a strategy, or how do you think about product development and trying to get those like viral, cool, funky things? I saw 7-Eleven did hot dog flavored water, for instance, right, to get a conversation going. And they actually released it. It was gross. But like, how do you think about product development in conjunction with your Gen Z TikTok marketing strategy?
I love that question. Thank you so much. A couple of things come to mind. One is menu innovation is happening all the time. And in order to do that effectively, you absolutely need to be kind of monitoring the trends and getting ahead of it because of life cycle. We have a life cycle, right? When you said that, now listen, we're not going to do hot dog water. That's weird. But, I mean, sorry. But interesting, novel. I'll go with that. But for Moe's, for example, we also do food collabs. So one of the big trends is hot honey. So we did a collab with Mike's Hot Honey. We also, everybody knows what Cheez-Its are, okay? So crumple those up. But it was all intentional. And what I'm going to say is, like, I can give you examples across each and every one of the brands. You know, doing collabs also, you know, even with Auntie Anne's for mustard, like new mustard brands or like new profiles. But going back to the Moe's example, why I wanted to bring those up is because it wasn't for the sake of a collab. It was, one, to be culturally relevant and on trend, but also having it be relevant to the brand. I mean, the intent of saying Mike's Hot Honey and like, what, on a burrito, you know? Or like you want some like Cheez-Its like baked into the top of your like taco. I mean, it's really asking you to be a little bit rebellious. And the next time you go to order a burrito and a taco, and it makes sense. I don't know if I would do the same thing in every one of those brands.
The next time I go to Moe's, I'm like ripping my shirt off when I order my burrito bowl. I'm like fired up.
Well, they're gonna yell,
Yeah.
"Welcome to Moe's!" And you're
Yeah.
like, "Glad to be here."
I think we're coming up against time. I have two softball questions, just to have some fun. We've been talking a lot about food. The biggest food holiday of the year is coming up next week. What is your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
I like my dressing or stuffing, but I don't know. Culture. How many people say dressing? Okay. How many people say stuffing? All right. Well, we know where we are from the geography of the United States. But anyways, that is like, I don't know. It's very nostalgic to me. It reminds me, I make it the way that my grandmother made it, the way that my mother made it, and now I make it that way. And so I really can't have anybody else's. I can't lie. What about you?
So, unfortunately, I mentioned the honey mustard and McAllister's earlier, and I said I was a big condiment guy. Does anyone use Durkee's, the famous Durkee's sauce? Yeah, I only use it one night a year, and it's on Thanksgiving, and I eat the whole bottle. So that's what keeps me coming back year after year.
Okay, I am now so curious. I'm gonna go try to.
It's just mayonnaise and mustard mixed together, but they found the perfect combination. And then last question, because it's somehow the end of the year. Personally, what is your goal in 2025? Not work related, but just a goal of yours. I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, wow. I have 2 sons in college, and so I am just learning this empty nesting thing. And so my personal goal for 2025 is to actually embrace being an empty nester, and you know, just regaining self. I'll just go with that.
That's awesome. That's great. That's a very authentic answer to wrap up the authentic.
And you?
Well, so I was hoping to get away from this because I didn't accomplish my 2024 goal, or it's not tracking in the right way. I was gonna try to run 5 miles in 40 minutes, and I'm at like 44 minutes and 50 seconds, and I can't do it by the end of the year. So it's probably gonna carry over into 2025. That's one personal goal, and then I'm a new dad, so I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I want to be a great dad too.
Congratulations, I love that.
Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.